webinar online series. We have an interesting group today, and we have a very diverse webinar planned for you today, and it includes, does your business idea make sense? We're going to look at your business or your business idea and see how to assess whether it's a viable business or whether you should be modifying it or thinking of something else to do. We're going to be looking at the WIIFM, what's in it for me concept, and how to apply it to generate sales. We're going to look at competition. We're going to touch on partnerships, one of my absolutely favorite subjects. And we're going to look at something called business pain points. So it's a very complete, really coping and survival webinar today. And there'll be some very valuable insight provided as we go through the webinar today. Before we get started, I would like to do the acknowledgement, very important. I would like to take a moment to acknowledge with respect the traditional territory of the Lekwungen people whose land this program is based, and the Songhees, Esquimalt, and Wisanic people whose historic relationship continues on with the land to this day. So we thank you all for attending virtually from different traditional territories you reside. And we have a pretty diverse group from right across Vancouver Island, a lot from southern Vancouver Island, and even some from the mainland as well. So one of the things I would like to talk to everybody about today is the sticking with it. It's really important. We've taken these webinar series and we've divided them into 16 deliverable evenings. And we've done that because each evening or each group of evenings covers a different area of business, whether it's marketing, budgeting, funding, communication, networking, technology, etc. And that's why we've done it that way. And the idea of sticking it out and sticking with the program is really important because it covers all aspects of business. So the more you attend, the more you will get out of it. I should just reiterate some of the upcoming webinars because there's some really, really great stuff coming down the line. Tomorrow we have a guest facilitator. Her name is Nadia Salmani, who's Haida, and she will talk about mindfulness and wellness and how mindfulness makes you a better and stronger business person. And it really does. And she's an excellent presenter. And it's something very different. And it's something that you should all pay some attention to because it's a skill. It's a personal development skill that will work very well for you as you build your business or as you run your business. But even looking down the pipe, next week, June 1st and June 2nd, we have business opportunities for Indigenous entrepreneurs with Chris Cathers, who is Métis, very successful Métis businessman and a trainer and mentor. And he will talk about all sorts of interesting opportunities available out there. On the 8th and 9th, we have communication, networking, and building your business contacts. And that's with Lex Dunn, who is a national marketing consultant and trainer, and also very entertaining facilitator. On the 15th and 16th, we have technology, everything that you may want to know about technology, how to use technology to build your business, selling online, communication, etc. And that is, again, with Chris Cathers, who focuses a lot of his business on technology. On the 23rd and 24th, we have Lex coming back to talk about marketing and branding and guerrilla tactics and a lot of marketing specifically for Indigenous businesses. On the 29th and 30th, we have yours truly coming back to talk about how to be a business rebel, how to be different from the pack out there. It's something I've always believed very strongly in. We talk about the psychology of business, what triggers people to say yes, how to build your business based on the quirks of business personality, and some really important stuff on doing business and gaining advantage over competition, making clients believe in you, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the Business Rebel. That's the 29th and 30th. And finally, the first weekend or second weekend in July, the 7th and 8th, we have the competition for the best business ideas. And we have to assume that a number of you will be submitting those forms that are online and get them into us by the 15th so we can assess your business and your business idea. So that's what's coming up down the pipe. All very important. I think it's really key for you to attend as many as you can because, as I said, each grouping of webinars covers a different area of business and business development. So let's get started. As I say, we're going to be jumping all over the place. We have a lot of survival strategies and tactics to talk about, a few interesting stories, stuff that's happened to me, some good, some bad. But there's always a little of both when you're talking about business. I'm here for you. That implies that there is mentoring available with this program, either with myself or one of our other facilitators, whether it's in marketing or technology or communications. And there is mentoring available for anybody who's interested in talking about their business, getting some insight into where their business is going, whether you have some issues that you want to talk about with your business. So it's something that's available. There is no charge, and all you really have to do is contact me at vithriving@gmail.com, and we'll see if we can set something up. So my first question to you is, what benefits do people get from being an entrepreneur? And this is from a survey that was done right across North America. And the results are pretty fascinating. So please use chat lines and let me know. Hang on, I've got one chat here. Well, good evening, sunshine to you too. What benefits do people derive from entrepreneurship? Can you tell me? What do people get from being an entrepreneur? A sense of accomplishment? Yep, that's good. What else? Anybody? To pick your own hours, independence? Yes, very true. We have 5 answers based on the percentage of responses to this. In charge of your own destiny. Also very true. And that's similar to independence. And okay, anything else? Realizing your dream. Masochism. Yeah, that's pretty high up on the, it's not on this list, but for those who have been in business, that's something that you definitely experience somewhere along the way. And it's part of the fun of business, a little masochism. I was going to say a little masochism can't hurt, but that's kind of an oxymoron. Anything else? Well, let's have a look. Flexibility, all good. So these are the 5 key benefits based from highest to lowest priority. And it really surprised me when I saw them. Okay, first one is job satisfaction. Entrepreneurs are a lot more satisfied and happy doing what they're doing as opposed to being employed somewhere. The second one is success. The idea of success and the feeling of success. And I'm not sure how many of you have already been in business and succeeded in business, but the feeling of success, it's absolutely euphoric. It's like a high that you're on for a long, long time. It's just great. And, I've been very fortunate. I've done it a number of times. When I have succeeded, I've succeeded quite nicely. And there's, people around you are very intrigued with what you're doing. They're very happy for you. Even the ones who are not happy for you, the ones who are jealous of you, are great because you've won something over them. But the feeling of success is just, it's almost overpowering. Freedom is the next one that was cited. Now, again, this was from a study that was done. And 83% of respondents said freedom is like their third choice. The fact that it gives them the flexibility and choosing your own hours, even though the hours may be from 6 in the morning till 10 at night, but you are the one choosing the hours, and there is that distinct feeling of freedom. For example, even what I do now, I get up early in the morning and I'm at work 5 in the morning. By 9 o'clock, I've accomplished a great deal of work. I will go out. I will spend some FaceTime with the kids because I can't see them, grandkids. I'll go for my run. I'll work on some of my other projects and come back in the afternoon to keep working on some of my business ideas. So that freedom is really amazing. And it's a great feeling when you can call your own shots that way. Happiness. And that's different from job satisfaction. Happiness is people who are in business for themselves and are doing reasonably well, are happy, and a part of business that I have always found interesting is the fun part of business, the challenge and the idea of meeting a challenge and meeting and exceeding your own expectations. And interestingly enough, only 71% of respondents actually cited money. That, I want all the money that I can earn because I deserve it and I'm in business for myself. And everybody who's in business makes tons and tons of money, which is a wonderful dream. But, it wasn't the first priority of being in business, how they saw their reason or their benefits or what their expectations were from being in business. So you have to keep yourself sane. And as I said, in this webinar, we're going to be jumping around quite a bit because I'm trying to instill as many survival skills. This workshop is called, Cope, Grow, or Create, Grow, Cope, and Succeed. And coping is a big part of business. Keeping your sanity is a big part of business. So they always say you need 3 hobbies or even like 3 different lives. One is to keep creative, and it can be anything. It can be sports. It can be writing. It can be art. It can be, it can be anything. But you have to keep creative because it keeps your brain alive and active and gets your thoughts away from business for a while. You can't focus on business full time. You'll burn out. The second one is keep yourself in shape. And that's another reason that we present the workshop like tomorrow night with Nadia for mindfulness and wellness, because it's an important part of keeping your body and your mind in shape. And the third one, of course, is to make money. Every business is in business to make money. I mean, if somebody tells you different, they're probably lying to you. If you don't make money in business, you won't stay in business very long, because it's one of the factors in running a business and growing a business. Everybody with me so far? Yes? Good. Good. So there's something called the innovation funnel. And the innovation funnel, and remember we talked about the funneling concept, and we'll go into that in a little more detail in a couple of minutes. But there's an innovation funnel where you have an idea, you define it, you design it, you develop it, and somewhere down here, you're ready to launch it. But basically, if you have an idea and you're just starting out, this is where you are. You've got a long way to go, and you have to follow these various steps. This is it. You are here, and you have to follow these steps of how to develop a business concept and how to develop a business. People who tell you that they've started and run a business that they have developed on the back of a napkin, if they have done it and done it successfully, I'm not so sure if it's skill or luck. One of the businesses that I had developed, when I talked to you about grinding sawdust into very fine powder and selling it to some of your favorite food franchises, and it was also used as a filler in some of the pharmaceutical products, because the capsules that are filled with powder well, probably about 50, 60% used to be filled with my sawdust. I mean, it got around. But I mean, that was developed on the back of a business napkin, sitting in a restaurant with a fellow who became my partner. But then we had to go through and do the whole business plan and do the market research and everything else that went in it. So you can develop the concept on the back of a business napkin, sitting in a restaurant or in a bar. A bar may be more conducive if that's how your thought process works. But there is a process, and this is called the innovation funnel. Remember, I told you you take your ideas and you feed them into a funnel. Okay? And first thing you have is something called your assessment gate. And your assessment gate means you do tons of homework, tons of market research, and we're going to be touching on some market research today, but just superficially because most of it will be done with Lex Dunn when he talks about marketing and market development. But your assessment basically means you have to reach a go, no-go decision. So when you do all your homework and you do your market research and you take off your rose-colored glasses and you look at this and you talk to people that you trust about your idea, and you bullshit with your friends or people that know you that aren't going to be competitors or going to be jealous or whatever, and you arrive at, well, should I take it to the next stage? That assessment gate is really important. I just finished working with an indigenous group that wanted to set up a film studio on reserve, and it was the most amazing assessment work, because one day everything was, wow, this is great, this is how we're going to do it, these are the best ideas, this is the cost, and this is who it's going to benefit, and this is how you're going to get people clamoring in the door. And then the next day would be, well, look, other people are building studios and they're getting tons of money from universities and colleges to set stuff up on campus. And then 2 weeks later, it would be, hey, look, we got a letter from Netflix. So it's a roller coaster. It's an amazing roller coaster. But at some point in time, you have to look at everything that you've got and everything that you've seen and researched. And you will say, yes, I'm taking it to the next stage, or no, I'm not taking it any further. Okay. Ted, thank you. I understand. I mean, some people are late showing up, have to switch to your iPad. That's fine. I'm just really glad that you're here, Ted. Okay, so you've taken it to the yes or no point. The next thing is you have to say, okay, I have this idea. What is it going to be? What am I looking at here? How am I going to bring it to market? How much is it going to cost me? Where am I going to get the money? Do I need a partner? Do I need to network for connections to get this thing off the ground? How am I going to steal market share? Because, and Lex will be talking to you about this as well. When you're selling, unless you're bringing out a brand new product or a brand new service, you are stealing business from somebody. How are you going to do it? How are you going to set yourself apart? Does it make sense? Does it fit you personally? And that's a big consideration too, because if it's a business you're not familiar with at all, then you better do a lot of homework, because this is your hard-earned money and liabilities that you're going to be putting on the line. You're going to be borrowing money, undoubtedly, to get this thing going, money that you have to pay back, that you're going to be on the hook for. You're going to be putting your own money, your own assets, don't mortgage the house, don't mortgage the family, don't mortgage the kids. You can mortgage your mother-in-law. My mother-in-law was kind of a neat person, but a lot of people say, regardless, that's just a joke. But you have to also determine at this point how much risk you're prepared to take. That's also really important, and people who really love their idea and love the project will tend to maybe go a little farther than others in terms of being prepared to risk more in terms of getting this thing off the ground. So that's your design phase. And this is your development gate, is your business plan. It's your marketing plan. It's your operational plan. You know, how are you going to do this? What is your action plan, step by step? And remember, we talked about baby steps. I mean, don't take these giant leaps. Take one step at a time, complete it, move on to the next, move on to the next, and do up the schedule of what this action plan is going to look like. Okay, so you've done your business plan. You've spoken to some funders, or spoken to some partners, or spoken to some venture capital people, or angel funders, people who usually family or love money, friends, relations who are willing to put some money into your business. Now it's time to test it. Before you launch a business, you have to test it. And a lot of people say, test it someplace else. Don't test it where you live. Don't test it in your own home market. Test it away from your market, because if something goes bad, you don't want it to be in your own backyard. If you're going to be learning stuff, and you will, you'll learn about what you're offering. If it's product, you'll learn about product packaging and what gets people interested, and how to market it, and how to price it, and what it's supposed to look like, and what you have to call it to make it attractive to people. But services are the same thing. If you're in tourism consulting, set it up or test it up in an area away from home, so that you will learn from your mistakes, because you will make mistakes. It's inevitable. And if you don't, more power to you. But chances are you will be making some mistakes, most of which are correctable, but stuff that you know that you have to change back into your business model here. Okay, so you've tested it, and you can beta test it. It doesn't mean launching a whole business, but if it's a product, try selling it elsewhere. Take it to different retailers. I mean, it depends what your product is. If it's a service, go to some of the people who would normally be your clients here, but they're located in Chilliwack or Delta or Vancouver, downtown Vancouver. If you're selling, let's take an example. If you're selling a tours, cultural tours, and you can take people to petroglyphs and nature watching, and trails through the woods, and ancient sites, and whatever you were planning to do. Take your package of what you're looking to sell and take it to a bunch of tour operators in Vancouver, for an example, or in Seattle, or some companies that package tours for incoming visitors. Now, I know this isn't a great time to talk about tourism, but that's exactly what you would end up doing if it was a tourism business. Take it to someplace, show them what you have, tell them what you're charging, see if they're interested, see, if they come back and say, yeah, it's too expensive or it's too risky. I had one client who was going to do tours on Vancouver Island on the Spyders, those three-wheel motorcycles, the Can-Am Spyders. They're about $30,000 a piece, and they're reasonably safe. So they took it to some tour operators in Vancouver who were dealing with clients coming in from China and from UK and from Germany, and found that the ones from China were intrigued, but they were scared. They wouldn't do it. The ones from Germany and France thought this was too safe. It was too hokey. They would rather rent a Harley and go up and down the island. So, the best of ideas all of a sudden had all these closed off areas in the market, and it didn't work. It just didn't work. Another perfect example, again, in tourism is whitewater rafting, where, and it's called soft adventures, where people like the idea that they're up against nature, while they're running the rapids. But at night they want to come back to quilt bed and barbecue salmon meal and nice wine and fireplace on the patio kind of thing. So it's called soft adventure, and that's where that whole thing developed, because people checked out the marketplace to see what was selling and what they were interested in. So does that make sense? Yes? Any questions? Lex, no, there's no deliverance attached to it, for goodness sake. Good Lord, you keep me on my toes. Okay, so there's also something called survival strategies. And that's what I said. This webinar is going to be a real mixed bag of all sorts of areas that I would like to cover, like to touch on. And it's some areas that are pretty critical that I wanted to get the points across. So we're going to be bouncing back and forth, but that's okay. Also keep in mind that all these webinars are on the Thriving Chloe Entrepreneur / Thriving website. And the Monday, Tuesday webinars usually get loaded by the end of the week, by Thursday, Friday. So all the webinars are on there. So if there's anything that I've gone over too quickly, you can either contact me at vithriving@gmail.com or have a look at the webinars online and fast forward to the areas that you want to cover again. Okay? So we talk about survival strategies. Now, why do I talk about survival strategies? Well, it's very simple. To succeed in business, you have to survive. You have to adapt. You have to be out there as a player, but you have to survive. It's really critical. And there's stuff that people have done that I have seen over and over again that I just shake my head. And you think they're common sense, but common sense isn't all that common. So I wanted to cover these, and I'm not insinuating that you guys don't have common sense, but I wanted to cover some of these that I have seen where not only are they important survival skills, but I have seen some of my ex-clients fall on their face because they didn't follow these simple rules. Okay, so here we go. Don't buy toys. What do I mean by that? Anybody? Don't buy toys. Nobody? Okay. Don't, that's new phones as an example. Fancy cars, Apple products. Yes, don't buy Apple products. Don't waste money. Every cent that you have, every cent that you earn needs to go back into activities that generate revenues. This is number one priority. So you don't need that fancy car today. Maybe a year or two down the road, you can treat yourself. You don't need the most expensive toy. You don't need the most expensive Apple computer with the 12-foot screens and the anyways, you don't need a fancy office. You don't need super fancy stationery. You don't need a $25,000 website anymore, because you can do a lot of this yourself or hire somebody to do it for you based on templates. Don't buy toys, because what you're doing is you're burning capital. You're burning capital. Now, like our friend Ted, we like toys. We love them. I'm a tech nut. I love my laptops, and but I've been in business for, hang on a second, a lot of years. I've been in business for a lot of years, so I've earned the right to buy toys. But at the beginning, I never bought toys. When I first set up my business, my first client was a print shop, a very fancy print shop. And I said I didn't want to collect any fees. I wanted beautiful posters and beautiful brochures, because back then we were using brochures, because stuff like Facebook and Instagram and Etsy, they weren't around. So like my business was first developed while dinosaurs roamed the earth, kind of thing. So I swapped, and I got the fanciest brochures that I could get designed, and it made me look like a major consulting firm when really my office was next to the furnace room in my house, down in the basement. And it was an ordeal till I got started, but now it's different. You will earn the right to buy toys, but don't buy them now. Don't waste your money now. Know your audience. And this really goes hand in hand with recognizing other people's needs. You are not selling what you want to sell. You are selling what somebody wants or needs. It's not yours. You know, if you want to try and convince everybody in the world that this pen is the greatest pen in the world and it's one of a kind and it's a great innovation, but that's very expensive. That's a very expensive thing to do. You have to know who your target audience is, profile your clients geographically, age-wise, income-wise, profession-wise. Who is the client group that you're looking to appeal to? You know, is it the elderly who are needing services or needing assistance? Is it the yuppies who are looking for new fashion, something different, whether it's leather clothing or briefcases or whatever. You have to know your audience and you have to recognize what their needs are. Never try to sell something that you think they need, because it's a very expensive sell. And I think I told you about one last week where these clients developed something called snow bikes, where they were bicycles with skis on the front and skis. I think they had skis on the back, and you would pedal, and God help you when you built up some speed on the ski hills. But they thought it was a great idea. But to try and convince people that they should buy them and use them is a completely different animal. And after they had some major crashes and a few lawsuits, that was the end of them. But anyways, always advance your own cause. Don't be benevolent. There's no room for benevolence in business. Business is tough, and business can be cruel. So always push your own cause. Now, that doesn't mean when you go to a conference that you immediately start to sell, but always make sure you get in there and talk about, at some point in a conversation or a presentation, to talk about who you are and what you do, whether it's in an elevator pitch or whether it's in people are afraid to sell themselves, and that's not good. You have to learn to be your best salesperson. Avoid nasty emails. Oh my God, I don't know how many emails I've written because of one situation or another, and they were blistering. And then I thought, not really a good idea. And I would tuck it away, because once you send an email, I think you have X seconds to bring it back, but it's tough. So think twice about sending nasty emails. My philosophy, certainly for the last little while, because I've mellowed quite a bit. I used to be more of a firebrand than I am now. But my philosophy is take the high road, and stuff comes back. Stuff comes back to the people who come after you. They do. I had one consultant who was running my Victoria office, and he stole cash from me. He actually stole cash. He collected on contracts and pocketed the money, and I sued him. But then I retracted the lawsuit. And I said, it's not good for my health to follow through on this lawsuit. But somebody will come back. There will be justice in this world. And somebody will come back, because this is part of your character. And sure enough, he moved to Kelowna, and he got in trouble doing the same thing. And somebody just beat the hell out of him. So what comes around goes around. Don't burn bridges. Don't burn bridges. You will meet a lot of idiots in business, whether they be clients or people who can lead you to clients such as multipliers, people who are in complementary business to you, and they offer you leads, and they'll come back and they'll say, okay, well, I'll give you a lead, but I want 20% of everything that you bill. So you have to see if you have those kind of margins built in. But you meet a lot of jerks in business. Don't burn any bridges, because you never know when you may need that person. And it's come back to haunt me a couple of times where I have burnt bridges, and then an opportunity has come up and I've said, I should go see, oh, no, I can't talk to them anymore. They won't take my phone call. So I don't do that anymore. I don't burn bridges. It's because somewhere down the road, even some of these people that you dislike, and you won't like everybody you meet in business, but some of the people that you dislike will be useful to you. Because don't forget, we talk about using people as stepping stones. When we get further into the advanced business program, and we talk about being a business rebel, I will talk to you about flexible ethics and using people and using the system and using people as stepping stones. And it's all very legal, but it has to do with head games and the psychology of business, and it's part of business. But don't burn bridges. You never know when you need people. Stay proactive. Don't sit back in your pretty office or in your Audi Turbo or your BMW cruising around. You got to get out there. You got to meet people. You got to sell yourself. You got to get known. You have to become somebody people will recognize and be memorable. So, you talk about being memorable from a marketing point of view. And again, this will be covered off in the marketing and market development workshops, which are really cool. I mean, Lex gets really good mileage out of his marketing workshops. But you have to be recognizable, and that includes your brand and everything you do, and the fact that you are the business. You're it. I mean, careful whose fingers on the way, because yes, careful whose fingers you step on the way up, because you're likely to meet them on the way down. Very true. And that's part of don't burn bridges. Just don't. Because even some of the people that you will find that you need in other situations are ones that way back or back sometime, you wouldn't even want to deal with them. But people are useful. People are useful. Do continual market research. Market research will be covered in great detail. We covered it today on a very cursory basis. But market research is continual. You don't just do market research when you're ready to launch your business. You're always doing market research. You're checking out your competition. You're checking out your trends and your marketplace. And things change. I mean, the world changes. Look what we're going through now. The world changes. The economy changes. You get, the great orange pumpkin down in the States, and he brings out policies. And all of a sudden, your world is all different, and it happens. So hang on. Is that when you can find out if you can expand your business? Yes, because market research, you may find out that one of your competitors is getting to retirement age. So it's a good time to talk to him about buying his location or buying his client list or something like that. So there's always something. Or technology changes, or you have some products and sales are slipping. And by doing market research, you realize that your products are being leapfrogged by something else, something new, the new shiny coin out into the marketplace. Okay, respect repeat customers. Who can tell me why? Anybody? Why do you absolutely need to respect repeat customers? Because they will tell other people, yes. Yeah, what's the what's the quote? Somebody who likes you, who has a good experience with you, will tell 10 people. Somebody who you've burned will tell everybody. And a perfect example of that is, where is it here? Yes, they represent steady income, Ted, that's right. To keep them coming back, very true. Tracy, that's very true. Okay, repeat business. 20% of your customers represent 80% of your revenues. That's what repeat business represents. 20%, let me repeat that. It's like repeat customers. 20% of your customers will bring in 80% of your revenues. Really important. Let that sink in for a minute. You know, one of the things I've gotten clients who say, I need new customers. I need to build my customer base. And I say, well, by doing that, are you ignoring your existing customers? Because the shiny coin on the road, I want new customers, I have new markets, blah, blah, blah. But it's your bread and butter customers that are keeping your business going, keeping your business alive. Because for every dollar you spend to keep an existing customer, it will cost you $10 to develop and acquire a new one. And these are statistics, well-proven statistics, throughout North America through the marketing field. So, repeat business is really important. Okay. And we talk about listen. Can't say this often enough. Listen to your customers. Listen to your competition. Listen to the marketplace. Listen to what's going out there. When you get together with a client, just shut up. Let them talk. See what their needs are. See what's in their head. See how you can fit in with what they're looking to buy or rent or contract. And that's one of the things I've developed is this real listening skill. And also, helping show my interest in what they're doing, whether that interest is real or not, that's inconsequential. I talked to you about the fellow who was producing garbage cans and how I stood there and talking to him about his garbage cans for half an hour before I started selling myself. Really critical. Listen so you can get a clue of what the customer is looking for. Okay? And don't trash competition. You would be amazed how many clients will get really upset listening to you tear somebody apart. Oh, they're no good, or their quality's no good. Yeah, but how do I know your quality's any good? How do I know you're going to deliver? You're telling me about your competition, but I haven't seen you deliver yet. People don't like trashing competition. That having been said, you can do it with a little finesse. And for example, you'll say, well, who's doing your website now? Well, it's ABC Clunkers down the road, and they've been doing it yeah, I've seen some of their stuff. It's okay. They kind of know what they're doing. They've had, lots of staff turnover, which is maybe true, maybe not, but it's, another shot. I think we can probably do better. So in something like that, you have trashed competition. You've stepped over them or on top of them without saying, oh, my God, they're horrible. They're just awful. They're the worst. Don't do that, because what it does is it turns off clients. It really does. Any questions? Where is it here? It makes you look bad. There's no question about that. It makes you look bad. It really does. It makes you look cheap. It makes you look hungry. And the last thing you want to do is look hungry, because then you'll get hammered on contracts and on pricing and on everything else. So don't do that. Just I'm begging you, don't trash competition. It doesn't work. It really doesn't work. What if it happens to you? That's interesting. Okay. my comeback to that would be, if you're sitting in someone's office and you're offering them product or service, and I always keep saying product or service because I don't know what a lot of you are into and what your product is or your services are. And if somebody does it to you, and what I've always done is I've brushed it off. I've said, well, consider the source. We've been here for 10 years. We've grown. We don't worry about competition. We worry about delivering for you. You turn it around. You just turn it around, and you just let it roll off your back, because you can't say, well, last year they said this about me, and then they posted this on Facebook, and then they, you don't believe in rumors. Don't believe, because the client may be saying it just to gauge your reaction, and just to gauge, what your approach would be in terms of promoting your own business versus, you can't build your business on the back of your competitor. It just doesn't work. And it becomes tiring. It's a really tiresome thing to do, and that's what I would do. I would turn, and it's happened to me, and I turn it around, and I said, well, consider the source. We're still here. We have a lot of great clients, and we want you as one of our great clients, and we do what we say we're going to do. So, I don't know what they said. I don't know why they said it. I don't know where it's truthful or not truthful. I'm not going to defend it. I'm going to sell myself as opposed to tearing somebody else apart who may be tearing me apart. Or I remember that happened to me not too long ago, and the client told me that so-and-so was tearing me apart. And my comeback was, well, I guess that means they're afraid of me. What does that tell you? That tells you I must be doing something right. Okay? And Tracy, that's what I would do. And I've done it. And I faced it a number of times. People do it. Okay. Then there's the shiny coin on the road. And I've used this expression before, and I've seen companies do this too often. They have a business, and they have a business plan, and they are in the middle of launching their business. And something comes up where it's, there's a shiny coin on the road is the expression, and where it comes from is, it's like a crow sitting up on a power line, and he sees something shiny on the road and he dives for it. You can't keep doing that. You have a game plan. You have a business that you are building or running. Stick to your game plan. If it's something that has some serious merit or serious consideration, and you don't want to let it go, hire somebody to check it out and to get back to you. Let somebody else do the market research. Hire somebody from the universities. There's tons of university students that have to do research as part of their practicum, part of their training. So find somebody at wherever, Royal Roads or Camosun or UVic, and get into their marketing department and say, I have this opportunity. I'd like one of your students to check this out. This is a good paper for them to develop, and get back to me with the information. Or hire somebody to do the research, do some feasibility, do some homework, give them some. I have somebody who does some work for me, lots of work for me. And she has been working with me for, it's got to be 15 years. And she is the best researcher I have ever had, because she loves digging for information. She's like, she wrote the information, kind of like a little, I was going to say little piggy, but you can't say stuff like that. She digs for information. And I say, okay, I'm looking at this, and this. I haven't got time to research it, but tell me who's out there. Tell me what the market is like. Tell me where it's going. Get me some numbers and come back to me. And this is your budget, And she comes back to me with tons of stuff. So it gives me the opportunity to keep running my business, but but it doesn't mean that I ignore opportunities out there. I just make sure that it's being researched by somebody I trust, and that I'm going to take this information. And the other idea of getting somebody else to research it is you're one step removed. Like if you were researching it, you would be too involved in all the information that you're digging up. Whereas if you have somebody doing all this research for you, you can sit back and say, yes, this makes sense. No, this doesn't make sense. You can pick and choose as to what you want to believe, as to what makes sense for you. Okay? So stick to your game plan. Stick to your game plan. You've worked very hard in putting a business plan together. You've gotten some funding for it. Stick to your game plan. One of the keys to winning, and this is something from George Burns. I don't know, are you guys too young to remember George Burns? Burns and Allen? Vaudeville comedians, they used to have a TV show. Oh, sadly, Ron, I know you're not, you're not too old to remember, but, this is one of the keys to winning that I talk about is putting up a good front. And a perfect example of this is my my time with the Garbage Can King. Authenticity is the key to winning. And if you can fake that, you've got it made. So part of the attitude of a survival skill is always show interest in what the other person is talking about. It doesn't matter how boring it might be. It doesn't matter how irrelevant it might be. You might be itching, like, you might be tapping your feet. You can't wait to get out. This is the most boring thing you've ever talked about. It's an entry for you to turn it around, get the signal to start selling your own product or service, but try to be genuine. Whether it's honestly genuine or play acting genuine. And when you do your play acting and role playing session with Lex, he will talk to you about authenticity and putting on the act and how to get the most out of a relationship by taking on a role. And the role might be someone or something that you're not comfortable delivering on, but you have to. You have to try to be authentic. You have to make sure that the other person gets the feeling that you are authentic. No matter what somebody wanted to talk to me about, I can fake being authentic. That's one of my gifts. And that's something that you have to develop as well. So the strategic planning process is really a process, and this is just like the funneling, but it's just another model, and it's important that you see it. So the first one is gather the facts. And keep in mind, all this stuff is going to be on the video that gets recorded and saved on the Thriving site. So if you don't want to go through the entire video, and there's certain slides where you say, gee, I wish I had a copy of it, I would gladly supply it all. I would gladly supply copies of any of the slides that you're most interested in. Just contact me at VI Thriving, because I'm a good guy. I am here to serve. So if there's some of these slides that you want copies of, I will copy them and email them to you. So the first one is gathering the facts. And we talked about that. That's the market research. Then there is the SWOT analysis. Remember, we talked about strengths, weaknesses, analysis, threats, as opportunities, strategic questions, etc. But this really should be done both for the opportunity and for yourself. Like, what do you bring to the table in terms of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats? And that way it will tell you if you are the right person for that business opportunity. Because you could have a great business opportunity, but because it's something so foreign to you, or your comfort level may be off, that it doesn't make sense to you. You know, if you're not an outgoing sales, if you're not an outgoing person, don't get into sales. You know, get into something internal like technology or developing an app or something like that, or online sales. So your personality has to fit as well. That's part of the swap. Okay. Review the inputs, whatever you've gotten in terms of statements from your market research. Have a look at them. Take your take the ones that are highs and super lows and throw them out. Look at all the stuff in the middle. Look for commonality of what you've heard over and over again. And then look for any what they call matrix, any combinations of opportunities that have a fit together, because there may be something in terms of opportunities or strengths that you can build on as a combined package. Okay. Then define your strategies, and this is your business plan. Okay. And then review and adjust, because you will have your business plan and you will go through it and you'll be setting your goals and setting your strategies and reviewing your plans and adjusting as necessary. So this is just another model for how to do the planning process. Is that clear? Is everybody on board? Yes? Cool. When you are planning, set real deliverable targets. And the reason is high expectations kills motivation. If you set your targets so high that it's painful or too expensive or takes too long to get there, it's going to be difficult for you to hang in there. See, we plan to get back on track by making a viral video involving our brand, a dancing baby and cats that look like dictators. I mean, this is obviously a joke on branding, and they show that the revenues here are going to go like way up. When you set your deliverables too high, it doesn't make sense. You will lose sight of where you want to be. You will lose motivation, and that's why we always talk about baby steps. Baby steps are really important when you have a project that you're looking to do, whether it's a launch of a business or an expansion of your business. Build it into all little bite-sized pieces so that you can achieve each one. And when you achieve each one, it's a great feeling of accomplishment, and it gets you going to move on to the next one. So set real deliverable targets. I have a message here from Jacques. Please email me the last slide. I won't remember. It's a lot easier, and I ask you to please email me. Just mention the slide, and it's the one on the strategic planning process is the one you want. If that's the one you're after, just email me, say that's the one that you would like, and I will gladly email it to you, Jacques. Okay? You have to strive to stand apart. The world is full of ordinary. Like when you look at whatever business you're in, you will see tons and tons and tons of people. And there's competition out there. And you have to try to be slightly different. So let's look at can anybody give me an example of how you might want to be different or stand apart in any one sector or in the business that you're looking to set up? Anybody? Lex, I can't believe you're not saying. Okay. Compete to be unique. As much as possible, yes. Yes. Let me give you an example. There was a company in Toronto. They weren't my client, unfortunately, but I just offer something your competitors haven't thought of. True. Let me give you this example. Okay. Whoops. Let's go back here. There was this company in Toronto. It was an ice cream company called Sweet Jesus, which is kind of sacrilegious, yes. And the reason they call themselves Sweet Jesus is because they said when you tasted their ice cream, the first thing you would say is, "Sweet Jesus, this is good." So they call themselves Sweet Jesus. They marketed themselves as Sweet Jesus. They had little crucifix on their logo, and they offended people. But they also built this cult following that became huge. So from a little ice cream shop, they developed a whole bunch of businesses, different businesses in different locations. They sold franchises, they sold licenses, they had their own recipes, their own menu. But this whole concept of Sweet Jesus ice cream was brilliant, you know, and it was they were fine till Jesus launched his lawsuit. Yeah. There you go. So I don't think he does that. I mean, he's too nice. He's yeah, no. But that's an example of dreaming big, and if it offends somebody, so what? And this is what I said. So what? There you go. So what? So I think we're going to take a break here. I'm going to talk about setting goals and a few other key things in WIIFM. And you'll see I've got a couple of videos to show you, and you'll see why WIIFM is one of the cornerstone business concepts that you better get super comfortable with in order to be able to build your business and establish your client base. So it is 7 o'clock. We'll pick up again at 10 past 7. We've got a lot of ground to cover. Anybody have any questions about what we've covered so far? No? No? Wow. Good stuff. Okay, 10-minute break. We'll see you back at 10 past 7. Okay, we're back. We're going to settle in here. Hope most of you are back. Yes. A couple of breaks. So I would like to talk to you very briefly about market research, because I know in the areas of the workshops on marketing, I'm going to be covering this in greater detail. But market research is critical, and it's something that you've got to do very much on an ongoing basis. We talk about market research, visiting competitors, focus groups, observations. I'm going to let Let's deal with most of this. But market research, no matter how much market research you do, market research is time sensitive. All market research has a best before date. So, if you're doing market research and you're getting old statistics and old data and old numbers, you better do it again and do it on a more timely basis, because the market changes very quickly. And market research needs to be justified, because you can't just say we're going to be the biggest or the best or whatever. You have to justify it. You can't say we're going to capture 5% of the market share, 10% of the market share, whatever. Because whoever you're going to be talking to, whether it's your internal management team or a funder or a potential partner, they're going to ask you where you got this information. So I'm going to tell you two very brief stories about market research. And this is from companies that should know better. They really should know better. And these are two large companies. And one is a brand that you know very well, coffee company in China. Well, it's a North American coffee company, but they decided they were going to launch in China. And it's not Starbucks. It's one of the other chains. And what they did was they set up these coffee shops, and they set up a coffee grinding operation in China. And they spent, I can't remember what it was, about $8 or $10 million. And nobody was drinking coffee in China. Like nobody, talk about basic market research. They didn't realize that they would have had to spend a ton of money teaching or getting people to try coffee and getting people to build the awareness of coffee as a social beverage in China. And they hadn't thought about that, and they retracted out of the Chinese market and wrote off millions and millions of dollars. So that's one that absolutely amazed me, because I remember when I was doing business in China, and they had actually set up a shop right outside Tiananmen Square, and it must have been like a fortune in terms of rent, and yet they hadn't done any awareness building to get people in China to try coffee in China. Starbucks did it the right way. They went in and they built a lot of mystique about the brand long before they even opened anything in China. The second one is ice cream in Russia. And this was a client of mine. And they're a major brand from the States. And they set up an ice cream store right on the main drag in St. Petersburg. St. Petersburg is where the money is in Russia. Moscow has the government. Moscow has the mafia. St. Petersburg has commercial enterprises. But anyways, they set up this ice cream store, and it was beautiful. And they were selling like practically nothing. They weren't even covering any of their overheads. And so they called me, and I happened to be going there on a business trip, and they asked me to check it out. And I just sat around and I watched the traffic walk by, and it didn't take me very long to come up with the conclusions. And I asked them if anybody had done any market research in Russia. And they said, well, yeah, some of the other brands are there, like the McDonald's and the Pizza Hut, and they're all there, and we don't know why we can't be there. And I said, well, do you realize that you are asking people to pay 1 week's wages for one ice cream cone? Like, had any of your people come here? Had any of your people done any socioeconomic analysis? Like, you can't do that. I mean, it's impossible. People won't do it. They haven't got the wherewithal. I said, I'll bet you the only people who are buying your ice cream are the mafia princesses. And that's exactly what was happening. And so again, they couldn't adjust their market, and they left. So it just shows you. I mean, here's two major companies, and they just hadn't done their homework. They just hadn't done their homework. Let's see where. So the one thing I want to talk to you about competition is, no matter what field of endeavor you're entertaining, never become complacent about competition. They're out there, or they soon will be. They are devious, jealous, territorial, and ruthless. And if you think they want to be friends with you, it's because they want something from you. So just be careful of your competition. Really important. I wanted to touch on partnerships. So if you are successful, be like them. Yes, sure. Or just ignore them. You know, I've never really watched my competition much. I mean, I've paid attention to them, but I haven't changed any of my game plans based on them, because I had my own game plans. I knew where I wanted to be. I didn't really care. I just made sure that they weren't out to steal, you know. And and it happens. I mean, there was one case here where my competitors came in and they tried to steal a couple of my key people. Luckily, I paid my people really well, and they were very successful. They made a lot of money. And they offer them bonuses to bring all my clients and all my client files with them. That's what you get with competitors. And that's the real world. And all my guys came to me and told me about it. So there you go. Let's touch on partnerships, because I hear so many people talking about the fact that they're looking to go into partnership, or they're looking to establish a partnership with a friend or an investor or something. Partnership isn't just money. You have to ask yourself, what else can they deliver? You know, you can't get a partnership just for someone who's going to kick money into your business, because somewhere down the road, the money's going to run out. And then what are you going to do? You know, you're going to be jealous. You're going to be envious. You have to have a clear division of responsibility and expectations. And my suggestion to you is, try living together for a while. You know, see if the honeymoon fades. You know, or if they're pulling their weight, or if you're actually building something where the two of you are greater as a unit than individually. And that's, you know, my company's called Synergy Management Group, and that's what synergy means, where the whole is greater than the parts. You know, if as a team you're stronger than each of you individually, that's a good partnership. When you have a partnership agreement, use your own lawyer, or get your lawyer to proof it. Don't assume that their lawyer is going to do a fair partnership agreement, because it's not going to happen. It's going to be geared towards the person who he's representing. So be careful about that. Avoid partnerships with people who are much wealthier than you. And the reason for that is there's something called a shotgun buy sell, which goes into a lot of partnership agreements. In other words, if I want to buy you out, I will offer you a bunch of money, and you have the right to turn around and buy me out for the same amount of money. But if you've got a lot more money, you can offer a lot more money than I can afford to pay you. So I'm gone. I'm going to be history. So if there's somebody wealthier than you, a lot wealthier than you, a partnership is a mismatch. So be careful about that, and avoid something in the agreement called a shotgun buy sell. What's best for business just for that person? Sorry, Ron, I don't understand the question. And there is a process. There's a process that you go through with the honeymoon, and it's very much like a marriage and a courtship. You know, you have the negotiations, and that's like courting. and it's basically flirting. I can do this, I can do that, I can bring this money in, I can bring these contacts in. I've been around for 20 years, or I've been around for 25 years. And it's, a little fluffing and courtings like peacocks. Then you have the marriage proposal. So you have a letter of intent. And the letter of intent is not really binding. It's this is what we propose to do. And we will convert this into a partnership agreement. And then there is the marriage contract, which is a partnership agreement. And the reason it's called a marriage contract because it's actually tougher to get out of than a marriage. I mean, divorces are really easy. A partnership agreement a business that has to break apart because partners don't get along is a lot tougher. Trust me, been there. Then you have the wedding, and that's setting up shop together. And it's a very exciting time. It's a very exciting time. You pick the furniture, you pick the decor, you pick everything about the business. It's a very exciting time. And you have your honeymoon phase. Nothing can go wrong in a honeymoon phase. It's, deep sighs, big dreams, lots of love. And it's a wonderful time to be in business with a partner. Both the wedding and the honeymoon phase are both great times, okay? And then the partnership goes into action. And you have a period of growth and enthusiasm. And also it's really great. And then people grow apart. People change. Maybe your partner or you have gotten a divorce. Maybe you have issues in your personal life. Maybe one of you is sick. Maybe one of you has found other opportunities that you want to get into. Life gets in the way. It really does. And there's a very low percentage of partnerships that survive long term. And then you have the divorce, and the divorce can be really ugly. So if you have a good partnership agreement, the divorce becomes easier. If it's amicable, the divorce becomes easier. But these are the process. And think of it like getting married, courting and getting married. That's very much what it is. I want to move on to, do you know of any business that are partners and survived? Yes. I had I had one great partner. I had a whole bunch of jerks. And it's all my fault. I had a whole bunch of jerks. But I had one great partnership. I had one partner who I made a lot of money with. It almost killed me. But it was the partnership itself from a business point of view worked well. From a personnel point of view, it was tough. It was really tough. So now I want to talk to you about WIIFM because to me, it's one of the most important principles in business. And I got a couple of videos to show you as well, and they're excellent. And your reader, instead of reader, just say your customer. Your customer is a narcissistic 2-year-old saying, me, what's in it for me? Your customer, you may think that your customer cares. Your customer doesn't care. Your customer cares about themselves. Your customer cares about what's in it for them. I mean, you could have the greatest product, but if it doesn't meet their needs and if it doesn't push their hot buttons, and when we talk about down the road, when we talk about the psychology of business, which is under Business Rebel, June 29th and 30th, we talk about all the hot buttons that you need to push to get a customer to react. And there are a number of them, and there's techniques to get customers to say yes. So those are really good sessions for you to take in. But you have to consider that your customer is not your best friend. Your customer is your customer who is somebody that you need to serve. Customer is somebody that you need to keep happy, make happy, certainly keep happy because you're looking for repeat business. So WIIFM should be in every contact, every communication, every pitch. And it's not what you want to sell or promote. It's what the target wants and needs that's important. You're going to make it easier for them to do their job or run their business. You make them look good. You do part of their job for them. You save them money. These are the hot buttons. This is what somebody is looking for when they're dealing with you. You increase their bottom line, reduce their stress, take a load off their workload, free up time so they could do something they like better, like sales or golf or whatever. You give them a sense of freedom. You give them peace of mind. You make them comfortable dealing with somebody they can trust and rely on. I'm going to go over these again because in every pitch, every time you do a communication, every time you do a proposal, these are the kind of things that you have to stress. Easier for them to do their job, to run their business, make them look good, maybe earn them more promotions or bonuses. If it's somebody at a larger company where you're dealing with one of the managers, you're doing part of their job, you're saving them money, you're increasing their profits, reducing their stress, take a load off. And these are the kind of things that you can tell somebody when you're talking about presenting something to, whether it's a service or a product. If you can fulfill some of these, you will have a customer that is happier with you, that is receptive. You know, if you have someone who is, I said 39, okay. If you have someone who is sitting there and he's looking at his watch, you know you're not delivering anything for him. And you know he's not being very receptive. So there's a couple of videos. They're short, but they're really good. I'd like to show them to you. Whoops. I don't want that. I want this. Just sit back and enjoy. This guy's got a lot of good information. And you'll see it backs up a lot of what we've been talking about in terms of WIIFM.
Hey everybody, I'm Solomon with ClickX. Today's marketing hack of the day. I want to teach you the most important acronym that you need to learn in your business, which is called WIIFM. All right? No, it's not a radio station, and it's going to help you make millions of dollars. I promise you, if you can get this right, you're going to make a lot of money. Let's get started.
Marketing hack of the day is brought to you by ClickX.
All right, so you might be thinking to yourself, what is this WIIFM thing he's talking about? It is basically the fundamental principle that every marketing campaign, every salesperson should be doing behind, right, in your head as you're proposing to a prospect, or if you're writing copy for your marketing campaign. It doesn't matter if it's an email marketing or website or even a small tweet, all right? It means what's in it for me, all right? That is what your prospect, that is what your audience is asking. What's in it for me? Tell me, what is it going to help me do? How is this going to help me accomplish more? How is this going to save me more money? How is this going to help me get to where I'm going for my company, for my career, whatever your person, whoever you're talking to? They're always thinking from their perspective, right? So a lot of companies, they don't necessarily know how to crush their goals, or they don't know how to beat their competition. They get too hung up on conversion rates, and maybe they're thinking about whether email marketing is so low, right? They're like, what do we do now? Do we have to scrap all of our campaigns and offers and come up with new ones? No, you're probably missing this guy right here, all right? You're missing the very element that they use to decide whether or not they want to use your company versus somebody else's. The very thing that they want to use to decide whether they want to work with you or they want to work with somebody else. It's all about how you come out, right? It's all about how you come across to your prospects. So I'm going to give you some examples, and maybe that can help you kind of revitalize how you should be thinking about your campaigns, your offers, your content, and so forth. And I believe that it's not just the newbie marketer that gets this wrong. Marketers in all sizes and shapes and form, big company, small company, they all get this wrong, right? We get right down to the features. We talk about how fast our engines can go, or how many RPMs, and whether it's a V8 with 6 cylinders, or it's a V8 inline cylinders, this thing, that thing. We get too caught up in the features. We never ever talk about the benefits of why we exist and why should somebody else do business with us and how is this going to help them solve their problem. All right, let's just say that you're a fitness club and you're trying to add more members, okay, for as an example. And a new customer would walk in and you're trying to sell them on all the different treadmills you have and the Stairmasters and all the ellipticals and how you have 2 full basketball courts. And this person may not even give a crap about your basketball course. So you have to understand that. What is that person looking for? How do they exercise? Why are they even deciding to want to go join a fitness club? Maybe what they're thinking that if I go 10 times a month, I can stay in the same weight that I have, or I'm trying to lose 5 pounds. And I just need to do whatever that is. That's the goal that they're going after. They couldn't care less about the rock climbing wall. You got that? So that's what you need to understand, that you need to start measuring what your customers are looking for, and are they getting that, and not talk about the leisure pool that you have, or the outdoor pool, or you have the kids play area, because they might not even have kids. All right, folks? So let's take a step back and assess our...
Are you guys having trouble hearing this, or is there an echo? What's going on? And I'm getting some comments. Some people it's fine. Some people are no, it's good now. At first echo, but now it's great. Okay, we will keep going.
Message and see whether or not it is in alignment with the benefits that the customers are going to get. This marketing hack isn't like do 1, 2, and 3 and you automatically get 3 times more conversions. No, this is going to actually go take you a step back to actually assess what you have and figure out whether or not you're even saying the same things that you should be saying in your marketing messages. You see, for marketers, it's really easy to list features. We're so good at it because we know what the TV is made out of. We know how small it is, you know how thin it is, and you know how amazing the sound is, and you can just keep saying that all day, but what they're looking for is whether or not it's going to fit on top of the fireplace. You see what I'm saying? They're thinking something completely different from what we think they're going to buy it for. So you have to think about what is the prospect looking for, what is the audience that we're trying to sell to, right? Whoever we're trying to sell to, what are they looking for, and how do we help them reach their goals, right? Put yourself in their shoes. I know we say that a lot, but very rarely we ever put ourselves in somebody else's shoes. And if you can do that, then you're going to have much better insight into what the pain of the person you're trying to help, and then you'll be able to help them reach that. And let me tell you, those are the companies that have massive success. They've had success in the past. They'll continue to be successful because they rarely talk about the size of the engine. All right? Because I wouldn't know how to measure that, because I am not educated enough. I don't have the knowledge to know this engine is better than that engine. I am pretty much clueless, so I use other things that I know as a means to understand whether or not this is the company I want to work with, or this is the thing I want to buy, or that thing. So here's the action item. All right? I am imploring you to redefine your offer. Redefine your content, redefine your messaging, redefine everything that you have that you're saying to your customers in your sell sheet, in your webinars, and figure out it's not about you. Take a step back and it's about them, right? How are you going to help them achieve what is it that they're trying to do? And then you step back and see whether or not it worked, whether or not they understood you, and whether or not they're going to want to do business with you, whether or not they want to even hear more from you. Because you can hear when a company is just talking about themselves. I've been around for such and such years. We have hundreds of employees and we have customers here. These are all the logos. And for 25 minutes, you're talking about your company. You have 50 slides about your business. And you haven't even asked your prospect whether or not, what would you like to talk about today? Or what is the pain that you're facing today, right? You haven't even talked about your prospect's pain. You're still talking about yourself. And a lot of companies do this. And if that's you, I'm so sorry. I hope it didn't come out the wrong way. If you can help them solve their pain, they're more likely to do business with you. They couldn't care less about how big you are or how many years you've been around. So let's take a step back and really redefine what it is that our offer is. You see, a lot of marketers are struggling to hit 2% conversion rate, which is like really average, right? Or 1%. They can't even get to 1% because they're always talking about themselves. And they're so obsessed about themselves, they just want to talk about themselves, and nobody even cares. They come to the website, they bounce right back. You haven't even explained to them how you're going to solve their pain, right? Most companies, when I go to their website, it's like all about us. Everything is about us. They should just relabel all the navigation to about us, because everything is about us, our capabilities, our everything, right? Our team, it's all about us. And there's barely anything for the prospect. Why should they spend any time on your website? Please tell me. There isn't, right? And then you wonder why your marketing isn't working. It's because you got this whole thing upside down. You got to understand that every single customer has a different pain, so you need to figure out how you're going to address to that. But I'll give you one last example, and I'll let you go. All right? So remember when iPod came out? Steve Jobs introduced the iPod, and he's on stage. He's explaining what the iPod can do. You know how he explained the iPod? It wasn't because there were other MP3 players that had little headphones on it. He explained that this device right here, you can listen to 1,000 songs from it. And people were able to relate to how many songs that they had in their inventory of songs and CDs and everything. And they saw that 1,000 songs in this little teeny device, I'm buying it. He didn't say how fast it goes. He didn't talk about the storage. He didn't talk about the RAM. He didn't talk about anything else. He was actually creating a whole new line of product, but he was talking in terms of the consumers and what they were looking to do, because obviously MP3 players were getting more popular, and iPod was the first thing that's going to change the whole thing for Apple, actually. So the way that he described it was, hey, you're going to be able to listen to this many songs. Then later on, there was an iPod photo, and he said you'll be able to store 25,000 photos. And people are like, wow, I got all these photos, now I can store it on my iPod. You know, at this point, nobody even stores photos on their iPod. Nobody even has iPod. They just have an iPhone. But the fact of the matter is, he was able to connect with the consumer and let them know that you have all these music, I'm going to give you a better way to listen to them and to store them and take it everywhere you go. That's why Apple is where it is today, not because they compare themselves to the PCs or the other MP3 players out there or another phone that's out there. In fact, they rarely do that. They never talk about their competition. They just talk about how easy it is to use the product and how amazing it is, and show others that are using it and enjoying it. And maybe that's what you got to do. But I just want to take a step back and look at your offer. If you're not getting the kind of conversions rate that you want, maybe you're talking too much about yourself and less about the prospects, that they don't really care. They'll leave and they probably want to do business with someone else who's willing to listen to them, willing to take care of them. This concept about what's in it for me is never going to change. All right? I hope you got some insights. Thank you for watching another edition of Marketing Hack of the Day.
Find that helpful? Yeah, it's a good video. It's a good video. I have a second one, but it's just very repetitive. So seeing as we don't have a ton of time, there's a lot that comes across. And it talks about everything that we've talked about here in terms of what WIIFM. It is so very critical. It really is. And one of the things that, that someone suggests, I think it was Lillian suggested, is talk about family, talk about, where is it here? Talk about occupation, talk about recreation. Don't talk about politics, don't talk about religion. But I mean, you can expand it, and when you start getting into the personal, warm, fuzzy part, you'll find that people are receptive, and what it does is it breaks down the barriers. But if you get in there and start saying, it was interesting because I remember sitting through a client's PowerPoint presentation once, and we spent the whole time for the first 15 minutes talking about how great he is, how great they are, and the fact that their products are great and everything is terrific, and how strong their management team is. And after a while, I stopped him and I said, okay, I'm a customer. You know nothing about me, and I know nothing about what you're doing here. So, WIIFM is critical in everything you do, in every relationship, in how you present yourself, how you communicate. And I think Lex will be talking more about it. I hope he will anyways in his workshops. And it's a critical part of opening up. Okay. So the other thing I want to talk to you about is a couple of slides on evaluating your business and your business idea. Like, does it make sense? Have you done your homework? Because we talk about market research. Okay. So the slide here is, don't lie to yourself. Pardon me while I drown in your bullshit. Blah, blah, blah. But it's very true. You can't bullshit yourself. Don't. It's a very dangerous thing to do. So what we're going to do is very briefly go through a couple of slides called the business health checkup. And we're going to go through item by item here. So please pay attention, okay? And these are, again, the kind of slides you may want copies of. Okay, so from a marketing point of view, ask yourself, do you have an understanding of your target market? Are you reaching your customers? How are you reaching your customers? And what you can do is you can actually grade yourself, 1 being no, and 5 being yes, I've got that covered off, okay? Are you effectively reaching your customers? Are you clear who your competitors are? Have you done your homework? Are you different from your competitors? Have you surveyed your competitors to get feedback? Have you gone into their stores? Have you contacted them? Have you done research? Have you contacted people in a similar business who are out of your geographic zone and they would be willing to talk to you? Have you adopted your customers' recommendations? In other words, do you do surveys? Do you ask them? And you see the companies that are successful, people like Amazon, every time you buy something from them, they ask you how the transaction was. Did we help you? Every time they go into customer service, did this help you? If not, tell us how we can be better. Because the customer's feedback is really important, really important. Do you know why people buy from you? Simple question. Why do they come knocking at your door? Why are they buying from you and not from somebody else? What are you giving them that others are not? Because chances are you are selling something similar, whether it be product or service. Have you actively measured the quality of what you produce or sell before a complaint is received? In other words, do you maintain quality control? These are serious questions, okay? Have you developed a profile of who your customers are? Like for those of you who are in business now, if I asked you, who are your customers? What are your customers? Are you able to tell me? Can you? Does your profile include age, income, marital status, etc.? If you can get that kind of information, if you're that close with your clients, it helps because it helps establish their buying habits. Okay. Do you need to educate your customers or build awareness of what you do? i.e., the coffee franchise in China, i.e., the ice cream store in Russia, in St. Petersburg. I mean, do you need to build awareness? Are you, is your product or service, is it copycat? Then it's easier. Are you riding on someone's coattails where you're doing something similar but slightly better than other people out there? Then that's easy to explain. Are you bringing out something brand new, like snow bikes? Then you better work at explaining it. You have a marketing and communication plan. And again, this is something that Lex will work with you to develop. Because it's really important. Like a marketing plan is how you're going to get out there. A communication plan is how you're going to deliver your marketing ideas, your marketing plan, how you're going to get it out there. If yes, are you following it? Are you tracking it? And that's why you see a lot of campaigns say, quote coupon 006, because they want to know where this is coming from. They want to know, like they'll ask, where did you hear about us? How did you find us? That kind of thing. Because they'll want to know where to spend their time and attention. Do you have an identifiable brand? Do people recognize your brand? Is your website effective? Is it? How do you know? I mean, you need to determine, you need to test it. Okay. Is your advertising effective? How do you know? How do you test it? And again, this is all the kind of stuff that Lex will cover with you in your marketing, but it's important to set part of it here as a business health checkup. Do you have a strong media presence, social media presence? Do you understand the trends in your business? Do you know what your market share is? Do you monitor your competitors' prices? Do you have others selling your products or services? Do you use professional marketing consultants? And you know you can get 50% of your marketing work paid by as a grant from one of the funding agencies from tax. So that's something that you should consider. Do you monitor the activity on your website? Do you have a webmaster who does this for you? Because you should be doing what you know best, and web management might not be it. Do you update your website regularly? Because people get bored. Do you know how long somebody visits your website? If they on your landing page, how long do they stay when they find you? Other than the fact that if they're looking for you, but how long do they stay? Anybody? 3 minutes? Nope. Nope. How long do they stay on your landing page? 1 minute? Nope. 8 seconds. That's right, Jacques. 8 seconds. That's how long you have to make that first impression. Okay. Do you reward your existing clients? Okay, now let's look at the finance part of your business. Okay. Do you run monthly budgets and cash flows? And do you compare them against your budgets? Do you generate cash flow projections? And this is really critical because cash is king. In any business, cash is king. That's why businesses are much better off these days when they can pay a couple of extra percentage points, but they get their money right up front through e-transfers and credit cards and debit cards. And it's a much different ballgame. But if you're selling anything on credit, you better make sure that you get paid and paid quickly, because you need the cash to buy additional inventory. You know, what you pay for supplies, what you pay for inventory is not the same turnover as what you get paid from customers. So if you have to pay for your inventory in 30 days, but you only get paid by your customers if you're doing open billing in 45 days or 60 days if you have to chase them, that's a problem. That's a cash flow problem. Are you meeting your financial commitments, or are you always skating with your cash flow? You know, are you always making excuses? Are you always calling the bank and saying you're running an overdraft and can they give you another 15 days? Because if you spend all your time chasing money, you're not chasing business. Is your cash flow strong, and can it support the daily operation of your business? It has to be. You can't worry about cash because it's incredibly time consuming and stressful. Are your customers meeting your payment terms? If not, you may have to reevaluate credit if you're giving them on open credit. Do you generate monthly management reports? Well, you should be in business for a while before you start generating, but you should be generating management reports with standard accounting packages like QuickBooks and all the others. You can, push of a button, you can generate financial statements, comparisons against budgets, cash flows, that kind of thing. You can do product mix. If you're selling a whole bunch of products, how many of each are you selling every month? How many units? How many hours of different consulting time? Billable hours if it's consulting. And you can do any kind of a breakdown you need, and you should pay attention to that. And it should be on a timely basis, because if you're doing this if you're doing it 30 days after it's transpired, it's already too late, because you can't deal, running your business is a daily operation. You can't live on historical information. So at the end of the month, you better do your management reports and do your analysis very quickly so you can make any corrective action, or you can make any changes that's going to earn you more money. Can you identify the risks? Do you know what risks your business is going through? And do you know how to fix them? Do you know how to deal with them? And those are called mitigating strategies. If you identify a risk, if it's a risk on a product and you can't do anything about it, get rid of it. if it's a risk on a service you're delivering and you can't really change it because your competitors come up with something half the price, get rid of it, do something else. Focus on the ones that have the gross margins, the reasonable gross margins. Like focus on the ones where you're making a profit that's contributing to the cash flow of your business. You have to monitor your inventory. If you've got any kind of a business where you're selling a product, what are your turnovers? If your turnovers are 12 times a year, that's good. If your turnovers are 3 or 4 times a year, it means you're sitting with a lot of stock that's costing you money for nothing. So get rid of it and focus on focus on your products and services is the bottom line. Focus on your products and services that have good margins, good demand, and good turnover. Do you have a good working relationship with your bank? It's a bit of an oxymoron, but banks have become a lot friendlier. If you're dealing with a bank like Vancity, the credit union, if you're dealing with Futurepreneur, Victoria Microlending, they're a lot friendlier. Banks like RBC, CIBC, Nova Scotia, all the others tend to work to rule. But if you're dealing with banks that understand small business, you're a lot better off. And that's why the funders that we brought to the table are the ones that are much easier to work with. Are your prices competitive? Sometimes your prices can be higher if you're offering something different. A perfect example is Apple. Their stuff is horrifically expensive, but it's sold as something better, funkier, more hip, and they get away with charging a lot more money. They do. I mean, even their movies are more expensive. On Apple TV, their movies are more expensive than the other pay-per-views. It's crazy. Okay, are your profits in line with industry standards? If you belong to an association, and they publish statistics and reports, you'll be able to judge as to whether you're in the ballpark in terms of industry standards for profits or selling features. Do you anticipate immediately or short-range gains or results? That's like short-term opportunities that you can take advantage of. Are your revenues meeting your projections? Important. How are you doing compared to your budget? And on the other side of the equation, how are you doing in terms of your expenses? Are you running higher expenses than you would normally be running? And if so, what can you do about it? And finally, from a management staff, and remember, you can take these and just gauge them from 1 to 5, and it's a bit of a report card, okay? If you've got employees, are they doing what they're supposed to be doing? And you've got your division of responsibility. You've got them defined as to what each person has to do. Are you in control of the day-to-day activities your business undertakes, tasks that are planned? Like, are you running your business, or is your business running you? You have to stay in charge. If you have staff, you have to. I've always been big on micromanaging. I keep a finger in just about everything. I have to. That's the only way I sleep at night. But you have to make sure you are in control. You can't delegate everything, including what can impact your business negatively if it's going to take you. You don't want. How do you know if you've delegated too much? You've delegated too much to other people or your partner. If you've got a partner and you're delegating, it's when you ask yourself questions or ask questions of him. How did we not see that coming? Or how come I didn't know about it? Then you've delegated too much. Is there a positive culture in your business? And the corporate culture is your image, your demand, your brand, and you'll learn more about that in the marketing stuff. Do you run security checks on your data? That's become a hot issue these days. And your IP, if you have any intellectual properties, such as what you have, Jacques, do you have a firm handle on your intellectual properties? Because for a lot of cases, a business's intellectual property is their biggest asset. If they're doing an app, or they've developed a system or a technology, their intellectual property is their most valued asset. And that's what you hear so much about on the news, with Huawei and with intellectual property theft, because intellectual property is just so valuable. Are you open to your team's input and suggestions? But I would say to a certain degree. Like, it's okay to ask for input, but you can't assume that your employees are running the show. You can ask for input to make them feel that they're part of the team. You can listen to what you want, but at the end of the day, it's all your decision. Do you have regular staff meetings for reviews, brainstorming, and most important, making sure that people are responsible and delivering what they're supposed to be delivering? If not, issue warnings. If not, get rid of them. I mean, these are people who are working for you, helping you to deliver what you need for your clients and what you need to keep your business healthy. Are you meeting your business plans and milestones? And that's why you have a business plan with budgets and forecasts and, in an agenda. In a year I want to be this, in 6 months I want to be this, in 18 months I want to be here. And you can gauge how you're doing based on what you've laid out in your business plan. Do you offer people bonuses or performance incentives? It generally works. People react to this. They react to positive feedback. They react very badly to criticism or negative feedback. This whole concept of constructive criticism is an oxymoron. It doesn't exist. People don't like criticism. So work on positive feedback and bonuses where you can. Do you have up-to-date job descriptions for employees? You need this for human resources these days, because if you're having problems with somebody, you want to make sure that everything gets very documented. And here's something else, and we talk about this when we talk about the Business Rebel. Have you designed an exit strategy for yourself? You are not going to be in this business forever and ever. You probably are not going to hand it off to one of your kids, or you probably shouldn't, because it's a great way for a business to just shrivel up and die. Businesses, you're building this business for yourself, not for your kids. How are you going to get out of this business? So you have to determine what you're going to do. My theory always has been to think of a business, to do my research, to create it, to grow it, and to sell it. And this is what I've done my entire career. And part of it is because I get bored, which is part of what a startup junkie does. But part of it is also because I know I'm not going to be leaving any of these businesses to my kids. They've all gone their own ways in terms of careers and where they want to be. So what is your exit strategy? Your best exit strategy is to build your business. Assume that within 5 years or 10 years or 1 year or 15 years, you are going to have something that's saleable. If it's anything to, your client base could be one of your most valuable assets. You can sell your client base. I mean, that's what data mining is all about. So think of how you're going to get out of this business and to your advantage. And generally, that's to sell it to a third party or sell it to a competitor. But that's what I would do. And that's what I've done over and over again. I think I've done that with about 6 or 7 businesses. And I think that's all we have time for today. I mean, it's you've got to get out there, and I'm seeing the same names coming over and over again. Hang on a second. I found my employees tend to be a lot more positive when I treat it as a learning experience. I also encourage people to take chances and expect not everything will work. Yeah, okay, that's certainly a management style. One of the reasons I went into business for myself is because I had a boss who was extremely critical. and I couldn't handle the negative vibes. I couldn't handle his attitude. I was stuck, even though it was a high-paying job. I was group controller for 26 companies, and I swore I would never do that to anybody who worked for me. And Ted, my attitude was always extremely positive. As a learning experience, yeah, I encouraged people to tell me, to share their ideas and share their inspiration and to share their hopes and where they saw opportunities. But I never gave up running the show. That's just the way I am. So that's it for tonight. I would remind you, any questions about tonight? You know, it's a good group. I'm starting to recognize the same names over and over again. When I was manager, I listened to my employees tell me what was selling and not selling, telling me what customers said. Right. Yeah, you have to listen to your customers. If you don't listen to your customers, you don't have a business. It's as simple as that. So there's an extensive resource library on our site, which is www.helloiamarentrepreneur.com/thriving. If you want to reach me with any questions, if you want copies of any of the sites, let me know. If you want any one-on-one mentoring, call me or drop me an email. I see Earl, how do you set up a business to sell? If you contact me by email, Earl, I will gladly spend some time with you. I will tell you how to package for sale, who to sell it to, and how to make some money at the end of the day. So that's it. Don't forget about the competition for best business idea, best presentation. The application forms are on the website. If you have any friends who you think might gain something from these webinars, please invite them along. Remember, tomorrow we have Nadia doing mindfulness and wellness and how it makes you a better business person. It's really a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to hear from someone who is so gifted. June 1st and 2nd, we have business opportunities for Indigenous entrepreneurs. That's short-term and long-term. On June 8th and 9th, we have my good friend Lex doing communications, networking, and building your business contacts. On June 15th and 18th, we have the world of technology, how to sell online, how to let technology work for you. On June 23rd and 24th, we have Lex coming back and doing marketing, branding, and guerrilla tactics. And a lot of the guerrilla tactics are just fascinating. They're hilarious. June 29th and 30th, I'm back at the wheel talking to you about Business Rebel, the psychology of business, how to get people to say yes. So you see, every section of webinars covers something different. There's very little, if any, repetition. Anytime there is repetition, anytime there is any repetition, it's really to hammer home a couple of points, really critical. So anybody have anything they want to tell me before I go? Or you can drop me a line if you have any other questions, or if you want to set up some mentoring. Keep in mind, you'll also have an opportunity to do mentoring on marketing with Lex and on technology with Chris. We have limited budgets, but certainly reach out once you hear them speak. I think you'll be impressed. And anybody have anything else? No? Well, thank you for attending. Thank you for being part of it. And we'll see you here tomorrow at 6. I'll be sending out the invitations probably first thing tomorrow morning. You guys take care. Good night.